And we are live. And welcome to Teaching Tip Tuesday. My name is Michelle, aka the Ignited Teacher, here on social media. And I want to thank you for tuning in for this Teaching Tip Tuesday. So, you're probably saying, well, what is Teaching Tip Tuesday? So, I'm glad you asked. What I do on Teacher Tip Tuesday is I help math teachers or struggling learners to effectively manage their classroom so that they can increase student achievement. And I do that through effective math strategies, which is your math pedagogy, increasing math content knowledge, classroom management strategies, response to intervention, technology integration, and project-based learning. And if you're new here and this is your first time on Teaching Tip Tuesday, thank you for tuning in. I hope that you come again and you like what you hear and see. And if you join me every Tuesday at 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, thank you for tuning in. And if you can't catch me live on Teaching Tip Tuesday, what you can do is catch me on the replay. I stream to 3 different platforms. That will be Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. YouTube, it will always be housed there. So if you're not subscribed to my YouTube channel, and if you are subscribed and you haven't clicked the bell notification, definitely go ahead and hop on over to YouTube and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of my teaching tips as well as videos that I upload throughout the week. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with tonight's topic. So if you caught my meme and introduction on Sunday, I said that I would be talking about why is rounding so difficult. It seems difficult for students to learn. And this came about because of a question, or this question. It was similar to this question. Why is rounding so difficult? And then the thread, the comments from the teachers, it was so weird because some of the teachers was like, oh, I hate teaching rounding. And it's so difficult for the kids to grasp the concept. And after the lady asked the initial question, she asked the teachers too. She said, well, what do you do to teach rounding? So basically asking for some instructional strategies to help her students master the concept of rounding. And this is whole numbers. If you're a fifth grade teacher, I used to teach fifth grade. You teach rounding decimals, and that is something totally different than rounding whole numbers. So I chimed in on the post and I said, well, rounding is not that difficult. And I've had really good success with my students. And I told her why. I was like, I use number lines or this, that, and the third. And I really didn't go into detail, but I thought that because this month I am focusing on instructional strategies. If you saw the meme on Facebook, it says I'm doing a series of addressing misconceptions. And tonight's topic, I'm going to talk about misconceptions that teachers sometimes create at the elementary level with rounding decimals. And I'm going to start there. So let me scoot over. Now, if you follow me on any of my platforms, you know that I am a national board certification candidate. I am attempting to get my national board certification in early adolescence mathematics. That means ages 11 through 15. So I'm already certified to teach grades 1 through 8 in the state of Texas. This would allow me to teach Algebra 1 and geometry at the high school. So There's a blog post that I just created, wrote on my website, and the link is in the description of the post on either Twitter or Facebook. I talk about when the lady asked the question, or the teacher asked the question in the Facebook group, and I thought about the standards, and I've been working on component 2, which component 2 is differentiating instruction. But in component 2, you have to show that you know the math, and that's standard 2 for the math standards for National Board certification. And if you look on here, and I'm not going to read the whole thing because you all can read it yourselves, but basically it talks about an accomplished teacher. And accomplished teachers have a deep and broad understanding of the mathematics well beyond the level that they teach. And that's one of the things that I wanted to start with tonight is teaching mathematics. It starts with you. Your students cannot supersede, unless somebody else is teaching them, your level of content knowledge. And I know a lot of teachers will say, well, no, but they can't get it. My students, my Algebra 1 students that I support, they struggle. I'm the math interventionist, but if I don't know it, that means they can't know it. And when you know the math above and beneath what you're supposed to teach, you know the nuances of what the skill and concept for that vertical alignment looks like. And a lot of people ask me, well, how do you know all these things about math? First of all, I've taught several grade levels, and I look at the vertical alignment so I know where my students are going and where they need to go. Now, I haven't taught first grade since I started teaching. That was like 19 years ago. And I really haven't. I did. When I came back to Houston, I taught first grade for 6 months. So it's been a long time, but I still know what first and second graders and even third graders need to know and what that looks like in that vertical alignment strand. And there is a vertical alignment strand for rounding whole numbers. And one of the things that teachers don't understand is that you're not teaching for your grade level. You're teaching the math content so that you and the teacher behind you can extend the child's understanding. So here's the problem with that. This is going to be the death of your students, because if you know your math content, you'll understand why this is not an effective strategy. I have never ever taught this to any of my students, even as a new teacher, because it doesn't make sense. Math makes sense. Math, you should be able to connect the skills as a math teacher. That means at the elementary level, all the way up to the high school level. You should be, and if you cannot connect it, you have to go and learn it so that you can connect the concepts. For example, as a 5th grade teacher, I didn't introduce rounding to my students. The 3rd grade teacher, they talked about estimation, rounding and estimation, and that's another misconception that teachers and students have. There's a difference between estimating and rounding. And I had to teach my students how to round decimals. But imagine having to put my instruction on this. There's no place value. That's the new, if you know the content behind rounding, you'll know that it's rooted in place value. 4 or more, raise the score. 5 or less, let it rest. But what does that have to do with place value? And I have a blog post that I wrote, I think maybe a year or two ago. I talked about how 10 more or 10 less, it's the bigger picture. And a lot of teachers in the lower grades, they think that that's about adding and subtracting. It's not. It's about place value. The place value strand or idea or concept runs all the way through 5th grade. If you have, I know Texas has a vertical alignment document. If you look at that place value strand, you'll see where it begins and where it ends. Place value is not in kindergarten. They do 10 frames. It sets them up for place value in 1st grade. But all of those skills are connected. And if you're a teacher who has strong math content knowledge, this would not appeal to you. It's not sound. The kids forget it. And I have, as a 5th grade teacher, I had to go back and teach them how to round whole numbers on a number line so that I can go in on that number line and add decimals, because I needed to teach my students about halfway points. But this doesn't talk about halfway. There are halfway points in between every whole number. What's halfway to 9? 8.5. What's halfway to 7? 6.5 or 6.5. Those are things that should be connected when you're teaching number line concepts on the vertical alignment document. That goes from 1st grade all the way, it skips 6th grade to 7th grade, because they talk about rational numbers and they talk about it on a number line. So number lines are something that should be used to teach it. And it teaches the kids number sense and flexibility with numbers. Because when their memory falls apart, they can draw a number line and they can put what they know on that number line. This is not a sound concept. If you're going to say 4 or less, let it rest, that means that that place value does not move up in value. Meaning if you're rounding to the nearest tens, that it means that it's going up 10, not one place. A lot of kids are so confused with place value. When I tell you place value is the issue, it's the underlying issue that most elementary students have. But place value doesn't start in 3rd, 4th, or 5th grade. Place value starts in 1st and 2nd grade. And some teachers get all bent out of shape because they're like, well, the kids come to us. I'm not saying that the kids don't come with deficits. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that you have to increase your content knowledge to have more effective math strategies to teach the children so that they can connect the math. You are the connector. But if you don't know the math and you're using things like 4 or more, raise the score, 4 or less, let it rest, when they go to 5th grade or when they're going to third to 4th, and they don't have a good foundation in place value, the children are going to struggle with rounding. They are. And the misconceptions that are created is that we're talking about just numbers instead of place value. And that number line would clear that up and also with the place value would clear it up. And that's really what makes rounding so difficult. So when I used to teach, and this is a 3rd grade class, when I used to teach, oh Lord, I think it's been about 6 years since I taught 3rd grade. I would have problems and I would cut out a number line. Now, here's the thing with number lines. A number line is it's in infinity because it has the arrows that go from where zero is, because we know that there are negative numbers on the other side of zero, and then it goes to infinity in the right on the right side. Well, what I used to do with my third graders to get them to understand, I used to take little segments of the line. So in this picture, it says 739 dresses. So what I would ask my students is, well, where would 700 be located on the number line? Is it after 600 or after 700? So it gets the kids to thinking about positions of numbers, and it brings it smaller so they can focus on a piece of a line, which is a segment. So then I would give them the little segment. If you could see on the picture, it had dots at the end because it's a segment, and it went from one point to the other point, and the kids had to actually label it. So if it was to the nearest tens, so this one I'm thinking is the nearest 10. So she wrote 740 on the further to the right point, and I'm pretty sure that the other one was 700. And then they have to find the halfway point and find and round it to the nearest 10 based on that. That's what effective instruction with rounding looks like, because it's grounded in, first of all, it supports the curriculum alignment. That's first and foremost. A lot of times when we pick instructional strategies, they do not support curriculum alignment. That 4 or less, let it rest, that 5 or more raise the score does not support curriculum alignment. And a lot of you, if you're a new teacher, you probably say, well, what does that mean? That means that next year your kids are going to have problems if you teach that, because it's not aligned to where the teacher behind you can come and say, oh, you learned about number lines and putting numbers and rounding with whole numbers, and I'm going to extend that. Instead, what is happening is the teacher, which would be me, I'm going to try to unteach, which is not a word, because there's no such thing. I had to basically not even bribe my students, but convince them that what they learned at 4 or more, it's not going to work with decimals. And am I saying that it doesn't work? I'm not saying that, but we're talking about instruction. For an adult, if you told them that, that's completely fine. But to instruct a child, and that's how you're teaching them, you're setting the children up for failure. So that's why this teacher is in this group asking, well, why is rounding so hard? Because number one, the strategy that is taught does not support the curriculum alignment, and it's not rooted in sound math pedagogy, and the content knowledge of the teacher is not where it should be. And I know teachers are saying, well, I know, no, you can't know it, because if you do, you would not teach that to your students. Just like cross multiplication. I don't teach it. I've never taught it, because first of all, it does not support curriculum alignment in mathematics. And then it's not sound math, not for a third grader. And a lot of teachers in elementary, especially in third grade, they call it the butterfly method. It's not sound pedagogy, because the children are supposed to be learning about fractions and extending what they know about fractions to comparing fractions, but instead you're teaching them a trick. It's the same thing with this rounding, and it makes it difficult when we have instructional strategies that do not support curriculum alignment. Now, on my website, I sell lesson plans for hard to teach concepts. So if you're looking for a lesson plan, I have using friendly numbers. And what this looks like is I use a bubble map, which I like thinking maps, and we describe what friendly numbers are. Friendly numbers are numbers that end in zero. They are multiples, and you pull out all that information about math. They're multiples of 10. They're multiples of 100, multiples of 1,000. Friendly numbers can be divided by 5 and 10. So that's what it is, rounding using friendly numbers. And then there's another lesson plan on my website where I use vertical number lines. Vertical number lines are excellent for teaching rounding, because some teachers say round up and round down, but we know we're not. That place value either is going to stay the same or it's going to move up a place. But it gives the children the sense that it's moving or staying, and it shows conceptually what is actually happening when we round. Also, it teaches them about halfway points. And let me tell you, it supports the curriculum alignment. And when I say that it supports the curriculum alignment, I am teaching integers. And some of the verbiage that is used, like sea level, that zero where sea level is, a lot of my students don't understand the up and down motion because of the number lines and things that they haven't really been exposed to. So if you need a lesson plan that is quick, easy. I have great reviews from really all of my lesson plans because it's a full lesson plan with questions and all of those things in there. The objective, you don't really have to plan anything. And then if you're struggling with the content knowledge, I put the content knowledge in there to teach you how to teach this lesson. So I hope that you enjoyed this Teaching Tip Tuesday, and hopefully that gives you some insight into what is needed to teach mathematics, even at the elementary level. You know, a lot of people think, oh, it's just it's not. You all are laying the foundation. And even if the kids come with deficits, that please don't give them, choose instructional strategies that don't support the curriculum alignment. They're already behind. They already have issues in mathematics, and you're compounding the issues by using ineffective math strategies. So if you have any questions or comments, leave it in the comments section, and I will get back to you when I see them. So enjoy the rest of your evening, and I will see you next week for Teaching Tip Tuesday. Bye-bye.